Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
I truly love getting together with her. She is like a breath of creative fresh air. I'm trying to put those words together and come up with a whole new term. But it's true. What she does, interior design, works throughout the entire New York metro area, and we'll define that, and anywhere really, wherever it makes sense. Learn so much about what you do and the whole process. We're going to dig deeper into that with the woman behind Livable Luxury. Nicole Fisher is back here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm good. I want to live a day in the life of Nicole. Like, what are you up to today? What is?
Oh gosh, no, you don't.
Come on. What do you got going on today?
It's chaotic. I mean, our day-to-day as interior designers sound like it is a dream job. You're touching beautiful things, seeing beautiful things. There's so much that goes into the back end of it and dealing with grumpy contractors or architects who don't have the same vision that you do, or really difficult clients. And part of what we are trying to accomplish as we grow and expand is fostering these relationships where we're only working with people that we really like and we get along with, we have mutual respect with, and that we can just only work with those types of people and hopefully leave the chaos and the mess to the side.
But I mean, along the way, along the years, you formed relationships, with people that are part of your wheelhouse, but occasionally, maybe you look for somebody different. I feel it in my world. Sometimes I don't want to use the cliche, but I find it to be so spot on. People can be in your life for a season or a reason. There's
I've never
truth to
heard that.
Get out of here.
I've never heard that before, but I love that.
And that's why I didn't want to say it, because I thought it was overused. We think about it, why people show up in your life. And sometimes it's for a season, short period of time. Sometimes it's for a reason. And maybe that reason could last 10 years, could last 20 years, whatever it may be. Maybe the reason was for you to learn something from them. You might have been in a relationship with them. And I'm going to give you an example. And I had an epiphany not long ago. It's getting personal, but I'm going to share it.
Okay.
Season or reason. This is 3 years ago. 3 years ago. I have minor skin cancer and needed radiation. And it was on my face. Can't tell now. It's all gone. And I let it go. I had a beard. So I was like, you can't see it. So I'm not going to worry about it. So then I got radiation. So I was involved dating somebody at the time. And it was like a 6-month relationship, but it was all good. It ran its course. But while I was going for the treatment, she walks in the door one day. I was at her place and she's like, "Oh my God, look at your face. Oh my God, let me help you out with that." And then I learned the reason. She's a nurse. So she helped me through that challenge, and I helped her through other challenges. And then that was the reason. I'm convinced. And there's more if you start thinking about it, why people show up. It's typically for a season or a reason.
Yep. I strongly believe in that and the universe just giving you signs. I think everything happens for a reason. So I'm a firm believer in that.
I'm
But
right there
as
with
we
you.
totally, as we grow, our business has changed. Our, clientele has changed. The scale of projects that we take on have changed. The budgets have changed, So I can't use the same people that I was using a decade ago because they're not up to the same caliber of end product that we are giving our clients now. So over the years, we've had to find new, fresh, more, in beautiful talent that can execute what we need them to execute. But what I have been finding extremely challenging is the builders and the contractors. Those relationships are really difficult because sometimes they're a dream and they're wonderful to work with and they just they take the plans, they do their job, everybody's happy. And other times there's just no respect for what we do. There is complete bulldozing on, our side of the job. There is, you know, screaming and yelling. And, I mean, it's such a high tense thing to begin with, but we all need to have, an even head going into it, or else it's just going to be a nightmare. So what I have been doing is I only like to work with people that I like now. And if somebody wants to hire me, they have to work with one of my guys because I can't, it's too much of a headache. It's just too much. There's not enough time for all the therapists that I need to go through and deal with these crazy egos. So we've been working really hard to try to find find new blood.
Mm. And that on the back end, the client doesn't know that. They don't need to know that. All they need to know
No,
is that you are a professional, credible, particular. Your name is on it. It's got to have a certain level of quality, and your job is to find those people to execute that or move on from somebody else. Um, do you find, because I hear more and more in the trades, they just take so long because many of them take on many, many different projects and things, you know, it's like you got to manage them while you're managing
totally.
your clients and everything else that you got to do.
Absolutely. I mean, showing up just in general is
Mhm.
a challenge. Um, Sticking to their timelines, we are very strict in the beginning to try to get a set of schedules that from them so we know because that's how we charge. That's how we get our, billing in order. It's how long we think we're going to need to spend on this. So when that goes up and above, it takes advantage of everybody's time.
Mhm.
Um, but yes, these jobs are just taking forever. And I think to your point, it is because they are taking on too much work. They're overworked. Everyone is so overworked. Um, but I think if we as a collective can just work with people that we love to work with and that, you know, can execute in a timely fashion in the way that we want, just smooth sailing it,
Mhm.
all around.
I love that you're real about everything. And we talked last time we got together about a family that had a second home, and it was in an area of a ski resort,
Hmm.
and there's a lot going on. I think it was 5,000 square feet,
Hmm.
somewhere around there. Um, and I said, well, when do you think it's going to be done? And you said, well, hopefully in time for the holidays. Now, and you started this, previously, at least the process. There's a lot to be done there. Now, somebody else could just say, yeah, I think by the end of the summer we should have it done. And that's not real because
No.
it's the scope of that project. And then for us, let's say a client, you have to realize that you have the consultation. So you go on your fact finding mission. You have the proposal, at least the first one, preliminary, just to give them a look at it. Then there's development of the design. You got to refine it and make sure. Yep, there's a whole bunch of steps that go in before the execution, before the
Hmm.
tradespeople even get a chance to pick up a screwdriver. So there's that. That takes some time, as it should, because you
Yeah.
got. It's almost like you're creating the blueprint for everybody else to execute the project, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that is the bulk of, the design process. That's bulk of like what we're doing. There's so much technical work. There is so much
Mm,
back and forth with our draftspeople, with our clients, with the contractors. Every change we make has to, kind of get repriced out too.
mm,
So, you know, that's been a struggle as well, just kind of sticking to these more elaborate budgets as prices go up, as materials get more scarce, as you know, more and more taxes. It has such a trickle effect on every process of what we're doing and what we have our hands in that to get to that end to the end, there's a lot of changes. There's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of um, edits and drawing that has to go in, but the bulk of the design is before anybody even, picks up a hammer.
Mm. I've learned so much from you about this process because many people may even think that, well, interior designer, so, some wallpaper and some carpeting and some couches and blah, 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 done. No, there's much
No.
more, right down to the construction, the lighting, the electrical. I mean, on and on and on. And now we're not even counting about the changes and the refinements that take place. There's so much going on here. Um, and it's on your shoulders. I hate to say it, but it is.
That's why I said you don't want to be me.
Mm, I'm seeing that now, actually.
There's a lot of weight on here. There's
Yeah.
a lot of weight.
Yeah. And not to add more to it, but these are people's lives. So if they're living in the home, you're in there doing your thing around them. I don't want to say disrupting, it's all part of the process, but then you got to cohabitate in a way while you're doing your job and you're creating their dream. This is every day their family comes home, they see this living space, they had a vision. You have to create that vision as best as you can. Some things you can't do. Why don't we go there? Have there been requests where you're like, that's a great idea? I can't do that. It's not physically or humanly possible.
No. I think when there's a will, there's a way. When there's a
Really?
budget, there's a way. Yes.
Hmm.
Everything comes at a cost. I think anything is possible, but it will come at a price.
Okay. So there has to be those things where, somebody says, I really want to do um, change the ceiling, do this. And you're like, well, no, that's a supporting wall. There's a header there.
Yeah.
God can't even go, all right, now you got it. It's all yours. Um, I'm sure you come up against those, and then you have to work with the client and explain it that I'm sorry, nobody on this planet can do that.
Yeah. Sometimes the real time I'll have to put my foot down about things that can't happen is when the project started. Because sometimes, and that's kind of a tricky with renovations, is that once they've been living in the house, they kind of know how it feels already. Now we're looking at it from a different perspective. Now walls come down or things change, and they want to either change it or we find God knows what behind the walls, or
Mm,
that wall wasn't structurally supported the way it was supposed to be, or there is illegal wiring that is happening behind the walls. Those
mm,
things happen a lot more, and then we have to pump the brakes because it just puts them over on their time or their budget, or it prevents something else being done. I would say renovations are more tricky and provide more stops. Sometimes, if we want to relocate a bathroom, for example, and we open up the wall and then we see there's an AC duct that runs right where I want to put
mm.
my sinks. Those are the times where we're like, all right, it's going to cost 20 grand to move this, or we just relocate where our sink is going to be.
But no matter what takes
So,
place, the plans, everything needs to change.
yeah,
Everything at that moment.
everything.
Yeah. You just
Hmm.
brought back a memory. The last house I had, was in there for like a year, decided to redo the deck. And they had this behemoth, and the guy was a contractor. So he built this deck that went all over these, all turns and everything, wood everywhere. And in the end, the wood would get wet. There was like little doors of storage. There were mosquitoes flying around. Like I'm blowing the whole thing out, and I'm gonna use Trex and just streamline it and be done. So I had a party when I first moved in. It was July 4th. Tons of people on the deck. Now, a couple of days later, we're gonna start the renovation. And of the three columns for the deck, they went into these planter boxes. So they bust open the planter boxes, and because we got to start the whole thing. And and the planter boxes, yeah, dirt and the the footings were basically toothpicks because all the wood had rotted out. I don't know how the deck did not fall down. I
Wow.
have the pictures. Like it's this big, but when you look what was there, it was like like nothing. And I'm not religious, but I'm just going to share this because I saved it in one of the three. As you know, I'm there. We're taking the dirt apart and everything, and moving. A religious statue comes rolling out. It was in the dirt.
Oh my God.
I saved it too. It's in perfect shape. Had to clean it off and everything. I'm like, there's a reason that this was in here, and I'm going to save
Yeah.
this. But
Save
yeah, but
that. Yeah, I agree.
to your point, you never know what you're going to find. You never know what you're going to
Yeah,
find when you open things up.
absolutely.
Hmm.
It-
Tell me who you work with. Like, obviously, anybody who wants to do a redesign, a renovation, whatever it might be, but you do referrals. You know, you get a lot of referrals, but also you can work with people who have people that are looking for your services. Like, I would imagine real estate agents, realtors would be one, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We like to target who our ideal partners are, not necessarily who our ideal clients are, because that's a much wider pool. So we're trying to be strategic in who these partners are because their clients should be our ideal clients. So the realtors, you know, selling houses in New York and Connecticut and New Jersey and honestly wherever that are these big, beautiful historic homes or that need a second life brought into them, or they're tear down homes that we need to rebuild on. Those are the type of partners that I look for. So,
Mm,
brokers is one, architects is another.
mm,
Architect, I want to look at their body of work and see that we align. Someone who's super contemporary or modern would not be a partner that I would necessarily want to
mm,
work with because our styles are so different. And, it could pose a challenge from an aesthetic point of view or from a client point of view that I don't think a client that wants to build an all glass home on the water would necessarily want to work with somebody like me because I don't necessarily do very minimal spaces. We like stuff. So on the flip side, working with an architect who understands historic homes or specializes in these type of colonial builds or Hudson Valley renovations would be a perfect partner for us because we have the same, idea and aesthetic
mm.
for, the end product of what we love to work on. Um, and then the third partner would be builders themselves, people who are actually doing the job. And for those guys, we're looking for someone with a team. We're looking for someone who has a designated construction management company, someone who is on site every day, someone who has probably as an office manager who can do all of their billing so that clients aren't, getting bills once every 6 months and freaking out because no one told them anything that was happening for the last 6 months.
Mm.
Um, Someone who uses a construction management software so the clients can go in and see what kind of progress versus me having to call and say, what'd you do today? What's going on this week? What's happening next week? Um, and that can, we work with a lot of really unique pieces. We source tile, for example, from Italy, and it will be taken out of an old villa that is being torn down, but
Wow.
we reuse a lot of that material. So we'll ship that in. I need to know someone who can install something like that because that's not a very simple installation. That requires someone who's very skilled in their tile install, for example. Um, we work with very interesting plumbing fixtures, not necessarily a hot, regular hot cold. Sometimes we do these little European taps that are just made for a bar, but I want to put it in a sink because why not? And people who don't look at these things and say, "Who is this crazy girl and why do I have this?"
Hmm.
but say, "Great, let me
Appreciate it.
do whatever she
Appreciate and
wants."
understand. Yeah, but that's what makes you different. And I love that, what you just said about that Italian tile coming potentially out of a villa. Um, Now that tile, go with me on this, has a certain energy. I believe everything has energy.
Yeah.
And now it's got that energy that came from that villa. It's got that authenticity. It's got a story. Um, wow, I didn't even think of that. Super cool. Where the hell do you find something like that? Like you on Craigslist? Hey, I'm looking for
I
tile from a
know.
villa. Like that's like super unique.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it depends. It depends quantities, how much we need. If it's going to be a little
Mm,
feature thing, then it's really simple to kind of find even from an online resource that sells antiques, like a First Dibs. They'll sell lots of, 36 square feet, 50 square feet of reclaimed tile. So if it's small, we can certainly get it through there. There are literally companies that just specialize in villas in Italy and France, in England that are being, torn down and they're reclaiming the products.
wow.
There's a there's a place on the other side of the river in Newburgh, Hudson Valley House Parts. They have been working on Richard Gere's old home. That's this ridiculous mansion in New York. It's being torn down and
In New York?
in New York. Yeah. There it's being torn down and they are salvaging every single thing in that house. And I mean, built-ins, slate, patios, lanterns, moldings, doors, windows.
Does he still own it or he's already sold it and that's why they're getting rid
That's
of
a
it?
great question. I think he already sold it and the new owners are tearing it down and building like 30 houses on that property because it's so big.
Wow. Where in New York is that?
I want to say it's in the Hudson Valley somewhere.
Hmm.
And it was literally in People like magazine yesterday because this
Oh,
story has been like so big. They're just
geez.
repurposing and restoring. It's a humongous home.
Now, is part of the sale of the stuff in there, whether it's some tile or fixture or whatever, is it the oh wow factor? Hey, by the way, this came from Richard Gere's place and upstate. Is that part of it, or it's this tub you're not going to find anywhere else, and it was at a great price, and it came from whatever.
Yeah, I think both.
Okay,
Everything has. I love a story,
yeah.
so a lot of people love a story. I mean, who can really say, "Oh, that was Richard Gere's bird bath"?
Yeah, true. And it's kind of cool, whether it's just one little thing, whatever it might be. Um,
Yeah.
so interesting. Like you run deep. I want to ask before we run out of time, are you an old soul?
Yes, very. And
Hmm.
my son, who's almost 6, is exactly the same way.
Like old
It's,
music too?
yep.
Wow.
hmm
Hmm.
I love my jazz, my Frank Sinatra. Yes.
Wow. Okay.
hmm
Interesting. No, I think it's unique because you don't see that a lot,
Yeah.
and it's somebody that's, younger like you that, appreciates this history, but that's what makes you you. But if somebody comes to you and says, "Yeah, I've got like a '70s vibe. I want, certain looks, certain colors," you can be passionate about it as opposed to saying, "Yeah, we'll do that for you. Sure, we'll get that done." And it's really not you. It is you.
Yeah.
And that big glass, thing that you described, is not, and not me either. I mean, I balance in my mind between minimalistic but also classic, and the whole glass thing, like, no, doesn't appeal. It just
Yeah.
doesn't. Yeah, I don't know why. What's the best way for somebody to reach you, whether it's somebody looking to get things done work-wise, or maybe even somebody that you could partner with, be it a contractor, broker, whatever it might be?
Yeah, absolutely. Our website is bnrinteriors.com. And there is a contact button there. You can tell us a bit about your project, or if you're looking to partner, I am the one who gets those emails directly and will respond to those. And if you're looking for some inspiration or potential client, Instagram is probably the best, and that's BNR Interiors.
Your 6-year-old son, does he have his own style and opinion as to his room? Has he said, this is what I want in here? Or did you, give him suggestions? How did that go?
I asked him when we moved into the house, and his response was he just wants rainbow. So I said, okay, I'm gonna give you a tasteful rainbow. So we just did there's stripes, there's color, but it's in a way that can grow with him and not feel too babyish or too childish.
Hmm.
Give him the feeling that I listened, but we're
Gotcha.
gonna make it a little more tasteful.
For a second there, I thought you said he wants Rambo. And I'm like, what the heck? Talk about an old soul. What's going on in that place over there? Nicole, great having you on with us. And always love your energy, your passion, and the insight. Super cool. And looking forward next time we get together.
Talk soon.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.